Okay guys, so today we're going to start getting into the basics of how to actually build your first web application. If you haven't seen my previous video on jQuery, you're definitely going to want to check that out, and maybe check out a few of my other JavaScript videos just so you know what you're kind of getting into here. It's going to be pretty simple, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. So there are three main things that you kind of want in your web app. You want to have an index HTML, index JS, style.css. You can put these in a very different places and you can organize it different ways, but right now I'm just going to show you the basics of it. So the first thing you want to do, I'm using VS Code. I have another video showing how to actually all the things that I use. And one of the nice things is I can just start typing out HTML and pressing tab, and it'll go ahead and give me some boilerplate code. So I have my head, I have my body, and I can actually skip a lot of different things. So the first thing that I want to do is start linking a few of my other files. So I'll start obviously by handling my logic. So I'll create a script tag that'll say everything that I just read before, use the following logic to understand it. So let's go src, and we will link by pressing dot and / I can go ahead and select whatever file was in the same level. So if this was inside of public, or if this was somewhere else, I would have to use some other sort of a notation to kind of move around. And so now my index.js is linked in, and then we can go ahead and up in the top we can link in my style.css by using a link tag. Style sheet, same thing, you can complete it for me, style.css. And so now my logic and my CSS are sort of put into my page. And the thing that I want to show you guys, if you guys aren't using this, is Twitter Bootstrap. So Bootstrap makes things pretty easy. Instead of having to go in and learn a bunch of CSS to know how to kind of manipulate things and organize them and make them look really pretty, Bootstrap organizes things into components so that I can easily copy and paste, inject things into my code, and then use my own CSS to kind of modify what they have going on instead of having to build everything from scratch. So it'll make things very easy for you to get jump started. So all you got to do is go to Bootstrap's home, click on download, and you'll see their CDN here. You want to go ahead and copy that, and you want to link it up here in your head the same way you would with your CSS. It's important to put it before you link your own CSS, because JavaScript, the way your page is going to be read is going to be read from top to bottom, right? So if you put the link to Bootstrap after you link your own CSS, what's going to happen is you have your CSS is going to get written out, and then it's going to read the other one from Bootstrap, and it's going to override everything that you did. So you'll be sitting there frustrated like I was, and the first time I made this video saying, why aren't my classes showing up? Why aren't my changes showing up? And it's because if you link this guy second, it's just going to go ahead and override this. So that's what this is saying right here. It says, okay, use all their CSS, and then if I made any changes, go ahead and override those. So make sure you do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually add a few different things here in the body. So I'm going to make a couple div tags. Oops. And these are just containers that are going to hold whatever it is I want to put in there. I highly recommend, if you're using VS Code, to install Prettier, because it'll make those changes. See how whenever I save my changes, it reorganized it for me? It's really nice. And so, also, since we're going to be using jQuery, you want to install jQuery in here. What you're going to do is you can just search it up. I used it off of W3 Schools. I think Mozilla has another one. And you're going to include that script tag here so that when you start writing jQuery code, it knows exactly what's happening. Otherwise, it's not going to understand some of these symbols that you use. Now, Bootstrap does have its own CDN, and so I always throw it down there at the bottom too. So we've got jQuery ready to be rocked, and then everything's good to go. Let's go ahead and start inputting some components. So let's come over here to components, and let's find like a search bar, something we want to use, like an input group. So something maybe with a button. We'll go one of these guys. So if I just copy this, it's going to be way too much. If I just copy this and I paste it and I save it, if we go over here to my page opened up over here, you can see, bam, there it is. I can type. I can click. I can't click this button yet, but we're going to want a button in here, right? So let's toss one in. I'm just going to put it wherever. So I'm just going to grab a button. First button that looks cool, we'll grab a primary button. And we'll copy that guy. And then we can, again, put this guy wherever. Right now I'm just trying to show you the basics of setting it up. And we're going to give this guy a class. Let's give him an ID of button, just so I can refer to him later. So we have classes and we have IDs. My basics video covers all these different things. And so great, hey look, there's a button, shows up. Now I'm going to create another div here, and I'm going to give this a class of GIFs, because the purpose of this video is to kind of show you how to use an API. So in this div, it's not going to show up over here. It's going to be nothing. It's technically there. This is where all of our GIFs are going to show up once we start using that. So let's actually get into some jQuery. So I'm going to say document ready. So this just says that whenever my page is fully loaded, then execute this JavaScript, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to say when we click the, I believe it was an ID, I'll go ahead and double check that again later. When we click an ID, this has to be a string called button. We're going to say on click. We're going to run the following function. Sorry, I got a little funky there. And so when we click this, I'm going to start by saying console log clicked. And I love putting a bunch of console logs in. It makes everything so much easier as you're debugging, because you'll kind of find where your issues are. So the reason I add loaded is just in case I made some sort of an error linking my page. So if I open up my dev tools and I go to the console, oh, look at that. This is not defined. So this is telling me that typing error, JavaScript requires jQuery. jQuery must be included before Bootstrap's JavaScript. Okay. So always read your errors. So let's go ahead and save that. And boom, loaded. So these are the simple errors that you'll run into when you're coding, live coding. But you see, now my logic's loading, everything's working out great. So let's go over here and let's see if my clicked button works. Yeah, look at that, click, 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 clicked. Okay. So now we're going to actually want to make an API call. So what we're going to do is Ajax dot